Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you all about 5 ways I gave up sugar. So today I wanted to talk to you all about 5 ways I gave up sugar, but before I do, if you are new to my channel, then hello and welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and if you like these kind of videos and would like to see more, then I upload every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday at 7 AM. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one. As I just mentioned, today I want to talk to you all about 5 ways I gave up sugar. Now when I say I gave up sugar, I mean processed foods and sugars. So I still eat things like fruit, and I still have some sugar in my diet as well. So I have things like maple syrup, local honey, coconut or palm sugar. I also have brown sugar occasionally as well. But I realise that these are still sugars, so I only eat them occasionally. Fruit I don't think is bad for you necessarily, because fruit contains fibre, and the fibre is the good bit for you. That's the bit that helps to push it through the liver, so that's what makes it go through quicker. When we eat processed foods and sugars, it can sometimes slow our livers down because it takes the liver a longer time to process those. So that's why processed foods and sugars aren't so good for you, or that's what I've learnt. But I decided about 4 years ago to give them up. I went to see a homeopath who advised me it might be a good idea to do so. So this leads me to my number 1 tip. So my number 1 tip, if you're thinking of giving up processed foods and sugars, is to do your research on that. There are lots of websites, and there's even a film as well that you can watch if you are thinking about giving up processed foods and sugars. The film is called That Sugar Film, and this isn't an advert for it. I just wanted to mention it because if you are thinking about it, that might help to give you a push in the right direction. The film is all about a guy who met a girl and they fell in love, but he was eating a very junk foody diet, I'd say, and the girl wasn't. She was eating like a whole foods diet, and she gave up processed foods and sugars. And he says in the film, when you meet that girl, you kind of do what she does. So he gave up processed foods and sugars as well. But then 3 years later, he decided as an experiment to go back to processed foods and sugars. And the results of him going back to processed foods and sugars are absolutely gobsmacking. They really are. And I would recommend that you watch that film if you are thinking about giving up processed foods and sugars. And there are also, as I mentioned earlier, lots of websites for you to go to. Doing your research just means you know a bit more, and you know the reasons why you're doing it as well. That's what I felt when I went and did the research. I sort of wanted to know why I was giving up processed foods and sugars, and this really helped me to actually give them up. So I will link That Sugar Film and the websites that I found that helpful in the description box below for you. As I did my research, I quickly began to realise that I would probably need to start cooking a lot more than I was. I love to cook, so this was exciting news for me, but I realised there are a lot of people out there who probably don't. And I also needed a guide as well, so I went and bought a couple of cookery books, which really helped me out in the beginning. They also gave me some handy hints and tips as well. So the evenings where you don't feel like cooking, they told me to do leftovers and put them in the freezer. So that's like takeaway night now. Instead of reaching for the takeaway leaflet, I reached for the leftovers in the freezer, and we have that instead. So they're really good for things like that. And I also have a lot of recipes on my blog, which you will probably love to go and check out. So please do, and I will link that in the description box below for you. Now, investing in good quality kitchen equipment, it's not essential, but it does help. If you're going to start cooking from scratch, depending on what you're going to cook, I would really highly recommend buying good quality kitchen equipment. I didn't once, and my equipment that I had at the time actually broke halfway through the preparation of a meal. So from that point on, I decided to invest in some good quality kitchen equipment, and I haven't looked back since. I would highly recommend investing in some good quality knives, maybe a food processor. I've invested in a NutriBullet, which isn't an essential either, but if you want to make things like smoothies from scratch, then they are great for that. I've also, from the very start, I invested in a slow cooker, and that was probably the best investment I ever made. It makes making meals effortless, and you get a delicious dinner at the end of the cooking process as well. I use my slow cooker a lot during the week, and I find it's a real essential part of my kitchen now. Tip number 4 would be to clear the cupboards and to try not to let it back in. For me, I started my sugar-free journey by eating all of the packet food that we had in the house, and then when I went to the supermarket I just didn't buy it anymore. Now I know this is easier said than done, especially when you have small children in the house. Going through the supermarket with brightly coloured packets and a small child can be like a bit of a minefield. You never know when it's going to blow up in your face. But what I tend to do is I tend to make a menu every week, and from that menu I will write a list of all the foods that we will need. So I tend to avoid the aisles with the processed foods and sugars in. Also, if Ted gets a packet of sweets from a birthday party or a friend, I don't deny him, but I just let him have it, and I say to him that's a treat, and they're not coming into the house all of the time. I also make a lot of my own sweet treats as well, so I make biscuits and cakes and flapjacks that my husband and son really enjoy eating. We don't have them all of the time, but we do have them occasionally, probably a lot more than we should, but yeah, so, and those sorts of treats are on my blog, and yes, this is an advert for my blog, Googie's Kitchen Life, which I will link in the description box below for you. So my final tip, tip number 5, would be to take snacks with you. If you know you're going somewhere where there's going to be temptation on your road ahead, then I would always recommend to take things with you. So I make a lot of stuff myself, so I will take the things that I've made, or if I don't have time to make those things, I will take things like fruit with me. Fresh fruit is always good to fill up on. Nuts and seeds are great as well. Dried fruit, things like dates and prunes, I'll take with me because they're always quite filling. I also take, occasionally, I'll buy those date bars as well, those naked date bars. There are lots of foods out there, especially in the UK now, that are actually using less sugar in them. And those date bars are really great for filling up on as well. So yeah, when you go out and about, I would suggest taking things with you so that you don't have to go and buy something from somewhere that you might regret eating later on. If push comes to shove and there is nothing else to eat, then don't starve yourself, eat it. I'm gluten intolerant, so I have a difficult time eating out anyway nowadays, so that's my excuse for not eating out of a packet if I have to. But I realise that we live in the modern world and sometimes we have to eat. So if there is something on offer, and also if you fall off the wagon occasionally, it doesn't matter. I tend to just, if I do, like Howard and Ted will buy a packet of crisps and I'll have a few of those, as long as they're gluten-free, obviously. So yeah, if I fall off the wagon occasionally, I just tend to pick myself up, dust myself off and tell myself there's a tomorrow coming, so don't worry about it, it's all going to be okay. Plus, eating processed foods and sugars occasionally I don't think is bad for you, and I know it's really hard to give up anything in this modern world sometimes, but if you can do it, I think you will feel a lot better for it. I know I do, and I know the reasons why I've given up processed foods and sugars. I want to live a long, healthy and happy life. and I want to live it without too many healthcare complications. And I think processed foods and sugars can lead to those healthcare complications. I know there are a lot of giant corporations out there who would tell me I was wrong, but I don't think so. It's just an instinct, a hunch I have, I guess. So that's why I've given them up, and I hope this has helped if you're deciding to give up processed foods and sugars too. That's my 5 ways I gave up sugar, and that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below. Are you thinking about giving up processed foods and sugars, or have you done it, and how's it going? I'd love to know, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon.